take a look, shall
Last time I interspersed some of the other intro music.
we?
Hello and welcome to Corner Comics, your mostly weekly comic book reading club. My friends and I get together. We have a couple of issues that we share with each other. Then we get together and talk about those issues. Gentlemen, it's Sunday again. We've got 6 more comic books to talk about. How are you? How are things? Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Van Glorious. You can find me at blacksuperherofan.com. You can find me on Twitter at Walrus. It's at WALLRUSS. If you care about me personally, you can also find me at walrus.org. You can find me at, where else am I these days? Well, no matter, you can always find me at cornercomics.net.
Perfect. I am Amazeballs. You can find me, not the title Amazeballs. I'm doing Amazeballitness. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, you can find me on Instagram at EM_MAN_YOU_EL. Emmanuel. You could also find me at EmmanuelTheStory.com. And lastly, you can find me on cornercomics.net. We will see you there.
Yes, and if you're joining us on Twitch, we appreciate that. We stream live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, so you can watch us live as we talk about the comics that we have. Now, every week you guys usually have a word that you throw out that I gotta find in the dictionary. This week, not so much. But I will say I was playing the Elder Scrolls Online, and I was doing one quest in that, and both words, loquacious and mirthful, were used in the same quest line, all in about an hour span. So
Nice.
I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Learning in video games.
I wouldn't have known those words if I hadn't listened to Corner Comics. So, just throwing it out there. So we got 6 books, 2 each this week. I am bringing 2 old books, and they are both DC. My first book is The Flash, number 115. This is from 1960, and is The Day That the Flash Got Fat. And my second book is Tales of the Teen Titans, issue number 42 from 1984. Russ, which 2 do you have?
I have a comic called Black Magick. It is an image book, sort of a monochrome comic. You'll be able to find it free online. It's going to be in the show notes. I also have another image book called Chew, not to be confused with the previous image book of Chew CHEW. This one is Chew CHU, which follows the adventures of another member of Tony Chew's family, who also has sort of a food-related capabilities. Emmanuel, what do you have?
I have Thor, Volume 6, Issue number 10, which came out in 2020. This is a Marvel comic. For those of you who don't know who Thor is, get from underneath your rock if you don't. The second issue that I brought is Quantum and Woody. That is a Valiant comic. That is Volume 6, Volume 4, Issue number 4. This too came out in 2020.
Nice. All right, jump right into it. Do the first book. All right, Flash number 115. So shout out to the well-read mage, Moses Norton. I follow him on Twitter. I've written for his website. He is a DC fan, and he posted this cover. And so that was my inspiration for bringing this particular issue onto the show, because I saw the cover and said, wow, I've never read that book before. Let's find it online and let's see what this is all about. So there's actually 2 stories in this book. There is the day the Flash weighed 1,000 pounds, and then there's a second story which deals with Elongated Man. and aliens trying to take over the Earth.
As they
So,
do.
right. What are your guys' thoughts on this book?
Manual.
I will get right into it. So, this cover is so iconic. I would bring this up as one of the most quintessential Flash things that had ever happened to him. He got fat. He also died. But people normally put this as like, oh, remember the time, Flash? Remember the time? So I love this issue. I love the cover. This was great. Thank you for bringing this back. I want to say it's remastered
Yeah,
because
the
I don't
version.
remember.
Yeah, the version we're reading is like digitally remastered.
Okay, gotcha. I remember reading this before and it wasn't this crisp. This is probably a non remastered version on the interwebs. But this brought back a bit of memories. A bit of memories. I really like the fact that Grodd has changed his body. I don't remember this side story, or not side story, it's all the main plot. But I don't remember Grodd actually leaving his body when I last read this. So this was a flash from the past, a blast from the past. Um, I really, really appreciated this. This is 10 out of 10 for me. I am a Flash fan. Everything was on point. Everything hit. The colors, the writing. This is the Flash I know and love. Um, he's not better than my favorite Flash though, but that's another story. But I am a Flash fan. The Flash legacy from Barry to Bart and everyone before and after. I love them. So this is a definite buy for me, simply because it is one of the most iconic Flash stories ever written. I'm here for it.
Russ?
Okay. All right. So this book was 10 cents when it came out.
Yep.
So I don't know. I wasn't alive in 1960, not even old me. But I did read this story uh, years ago, so I'm familiar with it. And then it made me, when I reread it this time, it made me remember the 1960s Flash animated series where they had a Justice League and the Flash had like three of their own episodes. And it was and when I look at it now, because when I looked at that old TV show, it seemed a little simple, right? Just, But then when I look at this, I'm like, well, this is very much similar. And it made me think that that animated series at that time very much matched the comics of that time. So it gave me better appreciation for that animated series, that old. Maybe we find a way to put in the show notes for the episodes or something. Um, but so I like that. This is the Flash I know, and very different than the CW Flash, who needs a whole team and a committee to solve a problem and is incapable of doing it on his own. This Flash can work it out, go to a team of scientists maybe and say, "Hey, I need you to do this for me because I don't have a Star Labs or something," and then goes solves the problem just on moxie, intelligence, and his special power. And that is what the things that made the Barry Allen Flash great. Now, Wally West to me surpassed this. So clearly, this Barry Allen is not my favorite Flash, but there was a time where he was kind of the only one, unless you go even farther back to the guy with the tin can on his head.
Yeah, Garrett.
Jay Garrick, yes. So this is classic in that respect, right? And it's also classic in the second story, classic in Elongated Man, uh, uh, who was just an adventurer who had a sort of a penchant for solving mysteries. But he was just an adventurer. And, it goes into, and those who don't know, Elongated Man in the comics got his powers from a special concoction from a rubber tree plant,
It,
rubber, plastic,
well,
right,
which is
called
touched
Gene
on.
Gold.
Yeah, which is touched on in this book too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it spoke to, and he even used it to increase. Now that means that pretty much anybody could be an elongated man, really, right? And then I have seen stories where they said that there's something unique about him, that the drug that's created from that doesn't kill him, but it would kill normal humans. So his real uniqueness is his impervious to the killing power of eating this whatever or taking
Okay.
this drug. So it's very classic. So in that respect, I I definitely think it's a must read. Now, do you need to buy it?
I don't know if you can afford
Uh,
it, if you can find it.
yeah, if you can afford it. I mean, you can find a
Yeah.
reprint, I'm sure,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're a collector. But other than, you know, other than being a collector, I don't know that you need to buy this. But I think that, know where you came from, that there's something here that you could enjoy. It is classic. In that era, DC Comics had all kind of crazy, outlandish stuff happening. Superman would be like, Lois doesn't love me and she's married Bruce Wayne, or something, crazy on the cover. That you have to go in and read how somehow this didn't really happen the way it says on the cover, or something like that.
Right.
DC Comics is very good for that, for putting just random, like, oh, I can't believe it on the cover, to make you go into it and then tell a decent enough story. I look at the simplistic of the art, the sort of Frank Quietly backgrounds, or lack of backgrounds, really, just a color blotch, things like that. But these were the comics at the time. So, for again, for that reason, it's definitely worth a read. Wouldn't buy it. I did enjoy rereading it. This isn't, you don't need rocket science. You don't need to know any background. You can just jump in, read this book, and get the fun, and you're done.
Definitely a product of the time. Sorry to cut you off, man.
No worries.
Definitely a product of the time. How to get rid of all the excess water weight? You go to a dehydration plant amongst potatoes and just sit there,
I
and then
love that image too. That one panel of the Flash, just fat Flash sweating is.
it's
Uh,
hilarious.
yeah.
Now, I did find some errors,
And
like, okay, if I inflate my suit, it's going to be that exact shape.
no, yeah, of course.
And somehow, this
Like,
flash suit that is stopping me being killed from running so fast, you could just stick a pin in it.
right.
So there's some little things there, but in when you were writing these things, this is like I remember you brought an old Iron Man where you could find a lot of little things that weren't quite according to Hoyle, but still worked in the context of the story and didn't detract from making it enjoyable.
Yeah, I feel like they were putting these books out so quickly, and the lead time to actually get them printed was a lot more than what we need now, because everything's digital, right? So you can do everything in the digital file today, and have it to the printers tomorrow to be put out. So there's a little more time to actually play with some of these stories. But like when they were doing this, like you had to have it ready weeks in advance. I feel like before getting the issue out. So um, yeah, I was actually kind of surprised at how simplistic everything was, but at the same time, it's actually it's endearing with how simple everything is. Uh, I really liked, so the two things, the fat Flash sweating was hilarious, and then Elongated Man actually speaks to the fact that he has money and can be a superhero because of the fact that he has money, and I thought that was really interesting. Um, he's like, no, Flash, I've made all my money at the sideshows and TV appearances, and this is how I'm gonna be a superhero, type of thing. And it was really interesting to see that in a '60s book.
Well, yeah, because you got to think about it. If you're going to be a superhero, who's going to pay for it?
Right.
Especially all those lawyers who's like, you didn't save me, right?
Yeah.
There is a panel where the Flash is getting um, raided by Gorilla Grodd's human form, and his whole suit is white. Everything else is colorful, but the suit itself is
Yeah.
white. I noticed that. I don't know if that was a accident, if that was on purpose for
Well,
whatever
they may
reason.
not have really been able to play the color thing well. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's only a certain amount of colors, and to show green over a red suit might have made the ray look blue, and maybe you missed, you know what I mean, or whatever and that's not what they wanted. They wanted to show that this was a green ray, etc. Because if you made the Flash suit red and you only have like 5, 6 colors to work with,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then how do you fix that? Even when you look at, yeah, I never see a page where there are more than five different colors, maybe six at the most.
Right.
And didn't they used to call them four color panels or something at one time or something like that? I remember there was
I have to
a
look that
conversation.
up, but that does sound familiar. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on Flash issue 115?
No, it was just fun, nostalgic.
All right, moving on. My second issue of the week, Tales of the Teen Titans, issue number 42. This is 1984, The Judas Contract. So I came about this. I was looking specifically for classic DC stories. So I don't know if I put the article in the show notes. I'll have to find it again. But there's a list, and this was, I think, number 3 on the list of like the most classic DC stories that you have to read. And so I picked this up. This actually starts a few issues back, and I had some trouble following it. If you don't have the graphic novel and you're trying to find the individual issues, it was the New Teen Titans by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, and the Tales of the Teen Titans starts
Or
where New Teen Titans ended. So New Teen Titans ended on issue 40. This started on 41, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then the New Teen Titans restarted, and so there's 2 New Teen Titans series going on, or was going. The second series was going on when this was printed. So I thought that was really interesting. But the one thing that stuck out for me for this was how much like an X-Men story it was. So if you're a Marvel fan and you're trying to get into DC, I would highly recommend this whole story arc and this character of Tara. So what did you guys think of this first book in this series, or in this story arc?
Well, so I very much enjoy the Judas Contract. This whole story arc. I think I read this in like the late '90s, and it caught me by surprise. I had read it without any research going into it, so I'd heard of the Judas Contract, but I had never read it before then. And the cinematic, quote unquote, cinematic nature of this, they'll tell the story as any comic book would go, and then you see a photo, and beside it, you have or read the caption, click, and then just go about the story. So you know that someone from some sideline is taking pictures. You don't know exactly who this person is. So if you go into this issue without knowing about the Judas Contract, it's going to be very, very entertaining for you. It's came out, I think you said in like '89 or something. So if you don't know the story by now, then shame on you. Spoilers. We will definitely spoil it, what the story is. But the Eyes of Terra Markov, or Markov, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. All of this is great. Great storytelling. I really like the character of Logan Garfield. I think, if I'm not mistaken, now they call him Gar or Garfield, but
Our field, yeah,
Garfield
it's
Logan.
yeah. I know there's there's a Logan thing happening, but I want to say it's Garfield Logan. That Logan is his
Okay,
last name,
Okay.
because
gotcha.
Wolverine Logan is his supposedly first name.
Yeah, I think they did that. They do that now. They don't refer to Beast Boy as Logan now
Just
because
call
it
him Gar.
confuses with Wolverine. They just call him Garfield. But here they call him Logan. And to see his character, see his quippy nature, we kind of sort of get that now, but more so here, it's more of a teenager.
Yeah,
And other incarnations,
to interject, I
what
love
were you saying?
how perverted he is.
Yes, yes,
But
We're
that
all
is a teenager.
it speaks to, yeah, him as, 14 or 15, I guess is.
Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whenever you see Two ladies fighting, they're sparring. He's like, "Oh, that's a waste of a good hug," or like he's so horny, like he's such a teenager, which is great. That's exactly how he would act. Now it's just more. I guess they want to make it more kid friendly
Yeah.
and less perverted, so they don't emphasize that aspect of him. He's still goofy, fun character, but he's less a teenager in that respect. uh, I like the art. It definitely speaks to the time. You see Starfire with a bathing suit on the first panel, so that's always great.
Very
It's
gratuitous.
very much fleshy. This was a good book, a very, very good pick. Um, this would start you on this arc. This is issue number one of this, I think, four-story arc, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So um, it's a great read, good pick, all good things, all the way around.
Okay, my memory of the Tales from the Teen Titans comic is that they were reprints.
Oh, were they?
And I'm just, that's why I was sort of looking off panel. Certain issues, like it says number 41 through 58 take place before the new Teen Titans Volume 2
Right.
graphic novel, comic, whatever. And 59 through 91 are reprints from earlier issues of
Okay.
comics featuring the Titans. So apparently some of them are reprints, a good run of them, 59 and 91. That's like a few years of books.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think this first chunk was the tail end of what Marv Wolfman and George Perez were doing on the new Teen Titans book.
so um, speak to a couple things you brought up. You know, there was a comic in which the X-Men crossed over with Teen Titans, and they
Valiant.
fought Darkseid and the Dark Phoenix.
I don't think I've ever read that. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll invite you to bring that up. It's so they crossed over, and when you talk about the similarities, yeah, a lot of them are there. And I think something in which Gar and Wolverine was like, "You're Logan, I'm Logan," even though one's the first name, one's the last name, etc. But this is very like the X-Men, unlike the Avengers. This is a family,
Yeah.
right? Everybody is in there. Very, everyone is in there together. You know, everybody. The struggle is real. We all struggle together, which is why I've always liked the Titans a little more than the Justice League, right? Because you don't have Nightwing going against all the other Teen Titans to have secret files on how to destroy them, or anything else Batman would ever do. You know what I mean? To basically undermine the Justice League. Nightwing wouldn't do that, right?
Yeah. Who's
Nightwing is the adjusted Batman.
I don't think he's quite Nightwing yet either in this
Yeah,
issue, which is
not
kind
yet.
of cool. You never see him in uniform,
Mhm.
but they're talking about like what his new name should be and all that kind of stuff. Is yeah,
So now, because I've read all of this before, and I also watched the director video movie of this, movie of this, which is also out, there wasn't much new here for me to get. It was more to remind me why I liked similar champions, the current young champions in Marvel right now. They all have powers, but they're all real friends of each other,
yeah,
right? Justice League, well, Avengers, you know they're not, right?
right,
Avengers is just business. Justice League has some friendships, but even if you go back to the Justice League animated series, there was cliques in the Justice League, right? There's no clicks in Titans. Everyone's all in. This is one of the reasons that makes this my favorite type of team or my favorite team books. In a similar way to X-Men, is there are no clicks. Even X-Men, there's some clicks like there's the originals, and then there's the New Mutants,
right,
and then there's the Generation X, and then there's the X Factor and the X Force and Excalibur. Am I
right,
missing any? Right? And
probably,
and there are Titans and Teen Titans, right? Because all these characters are grown up. They're not, except for Gar in this book. They're all grown folks,
yeah,
and so there are newer Teen Titans. But whoever writes those books still makes them family. And so these are characters or sidekicks of characters that you know. It is written in a very endearing way. Again, similar to the X-Men, so I can see why you would like that or why you would see that similarity. Um, if you haven't, if you don't know this story, you have to read this.
Yeah.
There's no, this is one of those classic things that you are required by law to read.
As a comic book fan.
Yes. Now, do you have to buy it? If you wanted to buy it, I would say get the graphic novel, which is probably sitting in the library. I went to the library the other day and had all these graphic novels you could just take and book and read and check out. So it's definitely a good story and worth your time. This one issue, do you need to buy it? No, but you definitely need to read it. You
Yeah.
definitely need to have a conversation on what happened here. Like imagine somebody joining the Justice League, becoming friends with everybody, and then finding out all the secret identities and then trying to have them killed. This is huge. And that would be,
Well, the thing that tripped me out about the whole thing is they started it, I think, a year and a half prior to that. So
yes.
it was this huge buildup of introducing this new character to the Teen Titans, only to have this event happen and totally,
Yeah.
disrupt.
And it was creepy and freaky. I mean, she was, 13. She tried to kiss what's his name, Slade Wilson, and smoked and all these other things. Like this little girl, is trying to be a bad woman that she saw in the movies, and she's not really good at that. And so all of those things. And then for me, what was big is that somebody knows the secret identities of all these people now.
Yeah.
This was the beginning of that scary thing for me. Because always in the comics before, no one knew Barry Allen was the Flash. No one knew Bruce Wayne was Batman. You had a couple here. It's not like in the current Flash TV show where, you know, 50% of the cast, villains included, know that Barry Allen is the Flash,
Right.
right? Everybody knows. In fact, he'll just take his mask off and walk around like, oh, well, I trust you. This to me was groundbreaking in that you now know, if you know who Dick Grayson is, you know who Batman is,
Yeah.
you know who the Flash is, you know who all these other people, because of and for me, that's what made this, in addition to the fact that you had this teenage traitor Tara, TTT, uh, but the fact that Justice or that DC Comics would let that get out there, like
Well,
like
it's
like people know here. Go ahead.
kind of interesting too that they gave her a Russian sounding last name during the Cold War, and to have her be the traitor and the spy and the.
Well, I say that, and then I say that to say, well, you know who Geoforce is?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Batman and the Outsiders, you've heard of them.
Yeah, I don't know a whole
Okay,
lot about him, but
Batman quit the Justice League because they wouldn't do what he said, and he created his own team called the Outsiders, and they do what he said, right? Black Lightning was one of them, right? They all did what he said, right? One of them was Geoforce, who is the prince of the country of Markovia. And
okay,
if you watch the Young Justice animated series, especially season 3, you'll get to see that. So they just, that was already out there, that Markovia, and sees his sister. So I see where you're saying how that is convenient, and maybe they did that, but Geoforce was out already before.
right.
But again, another reason to watch season 3 of Young Justice if you haven't already, because you'll get this story. So again, this is classic. Good pick on another classic book twice in the same day. Something that you must read. Every comic book fan should know this story and the particulars of the story. I say uh, either buy or go to the library and get the graphic novel. If you want a short and updated version, you can also get the animated movie. This leaves out a lot of good stuff here, but it's still a good story nonetheless.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, the whole graphic novel is on Comixology Unlimited too. So if you have a subscription to Comixology Unlimited, you can read it at any time. The whole book, the whole graphic novel. So there's
And you
that.
too can read The Terrible Treachery of the Teen Titans by Terra.
Indeed. Do you guys see what I did with the two books this week?
That you went back in time, try to bring out classic issues,
I went back in time, pulled out classic issues, and
and you went DC.
I went DC, and I gave you guys your favorite superheroes.
Thank you.
Ah,
Thank you for that.
okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Uh,
Check off the
uh,
box.
yep.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't do any of that, but there we go.
All right. Moving forward, Russ, your two issues, your first issue this
Okay.
week.
My first issue is called Black Magic. Number one came out in 2015. It is an ongoing book by Image. And let's see, it tells a story of a female cop who's also a member of the coven. And it is, I don't want to say black, it's not black and white, monochrome, set maybe on the cover. I thought it was an interesting story. I like the art, but what do you guys think?
Manual?
Sure. Going into it, I would automatically assume, because of my bias and because of society, that a group of witches or a group of people performing this ritual were the bad guys. But right out the gate, you have a member of this coven being called to work, and she's a cop, and she helps this um, hostage situation, help free the hostages, and things aren't quite what they seem because even the hostage, the person holding the people hostage, he's in trouble too. He's doing it because he's pressured. Um, and it raises so many questions because is there real pressure? He says it's internal that they're causing him to do this, but I don't know. This is issue number one. It started in 2015, so I'm sure you get the answer to that question if you read on. These books are out already, but this I've never heard of Black Magic before. This is interesting. It raised a really good question. I'm intrigued. I will read issue number two and so forth to find the answers to my question. The art was good. It's difficult to have a great story with just black and white or monochrome because that detracts, but this doesn't. You see beads of sweat, you see the expression on people's faces. There's even a panel where they do a close up of the villain, I guess the bad guy who's doing the hostage, close up on his eyes, and you can see like red tints in his eyes. You can see the veins. So this was really well done, and it piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, the I would call the arts sepia tone watercolor. I guess is a good way to describe the artwork throughout the book. I was a big fan. We got to see a little naked breastises here and there early on, so that intrigued me.
Mhm.
um, yeah, I really like this. I think it's kind of a bit like Witchblade. It feels like that. She's a cop with this secret that is going on in the background. It also feels a little bit like Sabrina, which I've been into recently. So I enjoyed the the mixture of the two. And I've heard the name Greg Rucka before. I've read some of his stuff. I don't recall all of what he's done off the top of my head, but that name sticks out, right? Um, this is pretty interesting. I like that, like Emmanuel said, there are hints here and there of color um, in the art, and it's not just the sepia tone or black and white. And then, of course, the last panel sort of explodes or spontaneously combusts
Yeah.
with some, the villain is lit on fire. But yeah, this is really cool, and I am interested to see where this goes, and I'll probably read a few more issues to see if it continues to pique my interest. As a first issue, I think this is really successful, um, and it's not. It strays away from some of the pitfalls that a first issue can have, where maybe there's too much introduction or exposition on the main character. This gives you just enough. Like, it's not, here's the whole backstory, and like sometimes first issues or like origin stories can be bogged down by like there's too much here. Like I don't really care about all this crap. This is like a perfect introduction. I feel like to this particular character. So, great pick.
So buy, read, or pass.
Being free on Image, I say it's a read because you don't have to
Okay.
buy it.
Good point. Good point. So yeah, and we will have a link in the show notes. Again, I picked it because it was sort of easy to follow. It was interesting. It wasn't a common type of book we read. I didn't find that not having a lot of colors, even though I didn't find it that detracting. Even though they did find very creative ways to add a color here and add a little color there to really enhance the storytelling, but only for that purpose, and otherwise they didn't use it. I like I don't want to say it's hyper realistic, but very realistic looking people, proportions. It's just not animated comic big heads or
Yeah.
anything else. These looked like real people. I like the attention to detail. You know, some of these books we get where you don't get these backgrounds or you don't get to really get a look at someone's face, but here you get a lot of close-ups on people's faces and their veins or the look on the spots on their clothes and all that emotion getting conveyed in the art. I thought was very good. So uh, it's free.
Yeah.
Get yours.
I think the last thing that I will say is that this is it's a very mature book, but it's not gratuitous in any sense. Um, so there's that.
Mhm. Okay. Any final words on Black Magic #1?
Nope.
Oh,
Okay. Moving on to Chew. That's CHU #1. And I think I did bring out the original Chew CHEW
Yeah.
comic. This character and in that book, Tony Chu CHU is his last name. This is his sister. And what I liked here is, and I do like the really different kind of artwork, more cartoony, I think. But I like that there's more powers you can have from eating food than what was explored in the original series. And it felt like a heist type thing, and I thought that was interesting. But what do you guys think?
Manuel.
sure. I like the Saturday morning cartoon feel, although this is definitely not a Saturday morning cartoon. I'm not in the traditional sense, at least. You see rain splatter from a gunshot wound or murder. Uh, it is visually stunning. In addition to the characters themselves being straight from a comic or a comic cartoon, the art on the walls are realistic. In one of the panels, you see art of a cat. It is a real life cat. And then further down the line, when you go into the Chew house, when the brother and sister see each other, there's a image or a photo of fries, and then you have what are the two guys, the two cops. It was from an old, I think,
Oh,
70s.
chips.
Yeah,
Yes,
chips.
yes. So that great correlation. You have chips like fries,
And
and then
chips.
you have chips. Yeah. So that's
That's a
awesome.
that's a good eye.
Yeah, you saw way more. I'm going back through it right now. I'm like, holy shit, I missed that.
I really, really appreciate that little attention to detail that they have. The dialogue between them, that's great. That's good. I like the side names. You have a person that's Miss Smart because she's the brains of the operation. You have just various side name or Miss Strong. You have Mr. Getaway, who's the driver. Miss Strong is the muscle. So these nicknames are pretty much telling you who that character is. I like it. I'm intrigued. It's sad that some of them died right away because I wanted to know more about that particular character or those characters, but it served a purpose. Similar to one of our other picks, I think last week, you have this Asian family where the brother is pitted against the sister, and we kind of have the same theme here. It still works. It definitely still works. So I'd say this is a solid read.
Yeah, I'm not as big on the art as Emmanuel is. I feel like it's too cartoony, but it doesn't take away from the story. I love the heist setup. I love how it all unfolds. It's very it leads you along in a really nice way, right? So there's the setup. Here's the characters. Here's how it all breaks down. It's not quite the way that you expect it to happen. So it's entertaining when it does happen that way, and then finally at the end we find out that one of the bad guys is related to this detective hero that we know, right? Um, I thought it was kind of cool. It does it nicely too. If this is your first time reading any book from the Chew-niverse, I guess.
Universe, I like it.
um, it does give you a few pages or a couple pages of breaking down who Tony Chu is. Um, this is a newer book. This one sells really well at the comic shop. A lot of people seem to pick this up. Uh, so yeah, I think it's doing well. I don't know that this is necessarily for me, but I did like the way that the story was done. This is good storytelling, good characters, good dialogue.
This
Um,
this this art reminded me of a Batman the animated series comic book.
yeah, it very much feels like that, or like the X-Men Adventures. That book, that was designed specifically to look like the cartoons.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is a cartoon without there being a cartoon. I feel like. So yeah, it's decently done. It's just not my favorite style. Um,
Yeah.
but I might check out additional issues just to see where the story goes, for sure.
And then I realized that I haven't been bringing the murder like I normally do
So you had
in
to
my
bring this book.
comics. So I brought this in because you get some murder and some good slicey murder, seeing brains and whatnot in here. And it's still cartoony and fun. Like never does it really get, it's gruesome and never gruesome at the same time.
Right.
Which I thought was great because if you're going to show that level of detail about people being chopped in half and brains and all this, and you still don't get grossed out even a little. I thought, and that also speaks to the cartoony nature because had they gone with something more realistic art wise,
Yeah.
then you might not have had this is a fun cartoon.
True. Yeah. There's the one scene I think that actually works really well for the cartoony nature is when Miss Strong vomits all over the place.
Hmm.
You get the real sense that she could have possibly died from just vomiting, right? Like if she hadn't been shot in the head in the
Yeah.
following pages, it's possible that she would have expired from vomiting so violently.
I also like the fact of expanding the universe in that you can get more from food than just what Tony Chu gets. Like you can get the plans to this entire thing. He baked a cake that is an exact replica of this building. So eat a piece of this cake and you will have all the plans for this whole building. And here you need your thing is you get super strength. So here's your food. You get this and here's your food. I thought, wow, what if the superpowers came from the food you ate, or whether you had a certain affinity for a certain food that gave you power? And I thought that was a good way to expand the universe. So
Yeah, totally.
there you
Yeah, solid read for sure.
go. Okay.
Uh, and I really love the Chuniverse, the word Chuniverse. Thank you, Matt, for coining that.
There you go.
All right. Any final thoughts on shoe number one? All right. Manuel, your first issue.
Thor, Volume 6, Issue number 10. Thor is the god of thunder and all-father of Asgard. Recently, the hammer Mjolnir has grown heavy for the king. While Thor struggles to lift it, everyone else, from a mechanic in Roxton to Thor's own brother Loki, has no trouble picking up the hammer. Open to finances from Asgard's elder gods, Thor attempted to trade places with his old alter ego, Donald Blake. Blake has been dormant for years now, enjoying what Thor believed to be an idyllic life in a world of Odin's making. But Thor was wrong. Trapped in a suburban fantasy, Blake went insane. Now the Thunder God's mortal vessel has a taste for blood, and Thor just released him onto Asgard, where Blake promptly broke the cane that allows them to trade places. Prey, part 2 of 6. That was a synopsis. What do you guys think?
All right.
Okay.
Before Russ digs into this, because I know that he's been reading this run, as have I. The one thing I will say is, if this probably hadn't been written 6 months or 10 months ago, right? It's almost like Donnie Cates listened to our podcast and was like, "Yeah, you're right. He is a little too overpowered. Here, this is how we're going to break the God of Thunder." This is it's a bit of a cliche way to do it, I feel like, but it's combined with other elements that really pay off for me. So it's kind of cliche that like you have this superpower that's so overpowered that the power breaks him at a certain point. That power, like the way that I think about it is it like shatters. But then to have the internal conflict become external. This is what you were missing from the penultimate book, Russ. Um, to
Definitely
have
missing.
Yeah, but to have that happen here, I thought was a nice twist. And then you potentially have an insane Thor. Um, it's continuing to be interesting, even at issue 10. And it was a buy for me. It's sitting in my box in the back in the closet. So, um, Russ, what are your thoughts?
Okay. One of the things that was interesting for me is having read comics from many years ago, remembering not actually having held, but remembering reading probably a reprint of the original Thor Marvel comic. In that story and in subsequent stories of that time, Donald Blake was actually Thor.
Okay.
Thor was put into that form to learn humility, which he did not have because he was an arrogant ass. But he was still the same being, right? And when he hit the hammer, he became Thor, but really just became Thor in body. You know what I mean? But he was still the same person.
Mm.
What they've done here is they've made him Banner and the Hulk.
Yeah.
So now Banner is mad, which has happened before, right? And mad at the Hulk, because I'm just going to use Banner Hulk instead of Thor, and mad at the Hulk for making a mess of his life and has had enough, and he's going to burn down the world, or at least burn down the Hulk's world, right? And the Hulk can be raging from inside, "Don't do this, Banner," right? Because but no, because Banner is going to do it. He's pissed off and he's had enough. So for me, they've turned this into a Hulk book for
Okay.
this run. All right. Now, when you look at how this is storied out now, they changed continuity, and that Donald Blake is actually a separate person. So Thor was asleep, I guess, while this was happening, right? Which means he never learned anything from ever being Donald Blake. I guess maybe because they have shared memories, and
Yeah.
that's talked about in this book. But he didn't live that life. Uh, uh, so it looks like Odin created a half of a being just so he could be used to control his son. And half of a being is always going to feel something in which they need to be made whole. So it makes sense that Donald Blake, which is now a half a being, living in a world just to placate him while he's, to be used later. Sounds like a Hulk thing too, doesn't it? It makes sense that he wants revenge and wants to burn down the world. You've made him so. Can Donald Blake ever be whole? He can never be whole as long as there's a Thor to take him out. So it makes sense that the only way he can be whole is to break that cane and destroy anything that would enable or help Thor to come back and take over this life. So I understand the motivation. Do I agree with all of it? No. I do like the fact that he and Thor have shared memories. I never heard that in this book before. So he knows how to beat everyone, right? I like I don't see how he could have Thor's power. That doesn't quite make sense to me
Yeah.
because Thor's power is with Thor. But then they explain something about the dragon, and excuse the spoilers, that he got a certain amount of power from. And I like the fact that he is Dr. Donald Blake and will stab you with his scalpel multiple times, take you out.
Yeah.
In that respect, this was all very entertaining, an interesting story. Again, it still uh, flies in the face of everything we've come to know Donald Blake being. You know what I mean? So you now change continuity, and I'm just supposed to accept it and run with it, just like you made Thor 70 levels powerful.
Yeah.
So I don't like that part of it, but it's an interesting story. It looks good. Uh, uh, and I like the motivation, and I understand the motivation. And he is a scary person, Donald Blake is, right? This is, you know, and what he's willing to do, stabbing people with a scalpel 100 times at super speed or whatever he's using, taking down all of all of the Asgardians that come at him, come at me, bro, and all he got is a scalpel, and he can take them down, and they're gods. You know, it's overpowered again, and the problem with this series, he
Yeah.
shouldn't have that much power. He just shouldn't, but he does in the comic. So what are we going to do? It's not my comic. So what instead of me being angry for the power inconsistencies that are rife in all the issues of this book, starting with issue number one, uh, I just let that go and just enjoyed what is actually an enjoyable book. It was fun, it was scary, it was creepy, and it was how is Thor going to get out of this one?
Right.
And it delivered in that respect. So if you're not bogged down by the continuity issues that I have, this is a fun book, and you definitely should read it. I don't know if you need to buy it. I don't know how well it stands. It's not a solo story. That's the problem with a lot of these stories. Is you
Y-
really need a series of bookends. I would say that the graphic novel for volume one, you need to buy. And if
Yeah.
this is volume two, then you're going to need to buy that too. But I don't know that you need to buy the original issues. So graphic novel buy, individual issues definitely read.
Yeah.
That's my take.
That's fair. I mean,
Costs too much anyway.
I've been, I've been collecting it since the first issue, or actually shortly after. So I think you turned us on to issue, was it two or three that you brought on?
Might have been one of
Um,
those.
that we read, and then I ended up going back and buying all of them because the shop still had first print runs. So I've had it on my pull list since. I've never been into Thor as a character until this book. So I think to that regard, it's hugely successful because I've never been interested in reading a solo Thor book before. Um, and I think, yeah, you do have problems with the continuity, but for new readers, this is so different than what they've had in previous Thor books, and even to a certain extent, what the characters like with the Avengers. Like he's sort of a little bit different here, or at least the stuff happening around him is very different. Um, so yeah, it's a buy for me. Like I said, I've been collecting it, so um, yeah, definitely.
All right, moving on. Unless there's anything else about the Thor book. Okay, so submitted for your approval. It is a dimension as vast as space and time. Quantum and Woody. Issue number 4, volume 4. What you guys think?
You want me to go?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay. Quantum and Woody is a Deadpoolicious type of book that takes place in the Valiant universe. It is irreverent and quirky and foolish, and the characters are silly, though they have great power and great responsibility. Uh, I did read this. I had already read this issue. Uh, certain people shouldn't be having, you can't, people shouldn't be having quantum level powers. All right. And these are two examples of people that should never have it. Right. Uh, there's lying and backstabbing and no oversight to these people. I'm not necessarily a fan of the art, but there is something catchy, like a deer in the headlights, about their misadventures. And I remember I brought the first issue here for us to read, so it's my fault. I take full responsibility. But it is weird. It is fun. The art is a little not
Rushed.
quite what I would like, but still definitely different and sort of unique to this book. And it's not like the art is just distracting. It just like I can see the detail the person made. It's just not doesn't it's not my style. I don't enjoy the style. There's nothing wrong with it though. I don't have anything negative about it. But it's not the cartoony style that I prefer.
Right.
Uh, but there's earth shattering, there's lying, untrustworthiness, there is weirdness. It's like the Doom Patrol. You don't know who they're going to fight next because they're the Doom Patrol and they fight anybody that would never get to fight Justice League because the fact that they exist doesn't make sense in the real universe. This is Quantum and Woody. These are people like Deadpool would fight, right? Because only Deadpool even they only exist in the Deadpool universe. Uh, um, I enjoyed it in that it was fun. It was not as predictable. There was a lot of action in this book, uh, a lot more than I would have expected. A lot of cosmic and colorful energy and last minute saving and all of that. But in the end, it's a Deadpool type of book. And if you like that, you'll really like this. If you don't, not for you. I don't know that this issue you need to read, but it's worth a read. So I give it a read minus. But I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just not vital. Like if you don't read this, there's no big loss. You didn't miss anything really classic, but it was fun enough. So I still put it in the read category. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the book. I like the artwork a little bit more than Russ does. I do see where he's coming from, though. Like, some of the stuff is. It feels a little rushed in some of the panels. Like, it's too sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it works for this style of story. And misadventures is a good way to describe it because I kept trying to come up with a word in my brain like how do you describe this book? It's kind of like The Tick. It's a little bit like Deadpool, like you were saying. Um, it's uh, it's 2020, so is it influenced by Rick and Morty? Maybe to a certain extent. Like there might be some of that here. Um, but yeah, it's just a lighthearted romp. There's no pressure here. It's just kind of go along with it. It's action heavy, and it's fun. So I mean, to that, I think it succeeds. Um, you have some cool character designs. Like all the bad guys look kind of cool, with the way they wear their masks and the way that their powers develop and things like that. Um, I really like the end of the book. The end of the book is going to carry me to issue 5 or issue 6, because we go all the way to Mars and see that there's a future Woody, that exists who is writing notes to past Woody or current continuity Woody. Um, and I love when they do shit like that. So like I'm interested to see what happens with this and why is he on Mars and what are these notes that he's writing to himself in the past or the current timeline. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's little things here and there like at the beginning of the book, Quantum, he's like phased out of our reality or our dimension or whatever it is.
or pure astral form or something.
Yeah, and it's funny because he goes to never fear, citizens. It's just I quantum here, and he's like, "Oh no, they can't see me. I don't know why I'm even trying to talk to them right now."
In that respect, the fact that we live in a world where a Deadpool movie can make millions of dollars, this can be that next movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very much
If
so.
you take these two characters and put them in the world, just their interaction, and it's a buddy cop thing too, and all of that, just their interaction, this is perfect. And I think that Valiant has a goal to make their universe big in the movie aspect, just like, you know, DC and Marvel. And this is their Deadpool.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that uh, what was the
Bloodshot?
yeah, Bloodshot. I wanted to say Bloodpool for some reason.
Bloodshot was probably the last movie I saw in the theaters.
Well, I was gonna say it's a shame that happened so close to when everything was getting shut down and the pandemic and all that.
I hear it did well enough that they are actually going to make a sequel nonetheless.
Yeah, but I think it could have done way better numbers.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's changed forever. Just like I think movies will never go back to what they once were. What with, and I guess we can talk about this news. What with Disney saying everything they put out next year is going to simultaneously be on their streaming service.
oh,
Not
and,
DC, HBO.
yeah.
HBO says all of our movies, Warner Brothers movies, will come out in the theater if it's available, but will also be available on our streaming platform for no additional charge.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on Quantum and Woody before we get to that stuff?
If
And,
there's ever a Quantum and Woody movie, I would. This is my fan cast. I would want four
Woody
characters.
Harrelson. Woody Harrelson is Woody.
No. I would want, because since it's like a buddy thing with like a white guy and a black guy, even though they're brothers, I would want the two major casts of Scrubs, Zach Braff and Donald Faison. I would want them
That
two,
would
and
work.
then the two major casts of Psych to guest appear. Um, those two guys. So those four characters to
Either
appear
one
in
could
some
work.
sort of way.
If they use Psych to make this, those Psych guys to make this, I would watch the hell out of that. I would watch the hell out of that. So yeah, I like your fan casting. Good work there.
All right.
All right. So, transitioning to the round table, you had one thing that you wrote here, Russ.
Yes. So here's my thing, and this is also I'm not talking about because DC is putting out something new called Future State, in which there's another possible future, I guess,
Okay.
and Batman is outlawed. What if Batman? What if Batman just left Gotham? Just leave. I mean, not all the other bad people, all the Robins, they can stay. All the bad girls, they're like three of them now. They can stay. All the outsiders, they can stay. If Batman leaves, is Gotham City in worse shape if he
No,
leaves?
they can't get any worse.
So why is Batman there? Why Batman's not making things better? He can leave all the trainees and give them keys to the cave,
Yeah.
right? Oracle can direct them. They probably would do better than Batman ever would. And yet Batman is still in the comics, is still in Gotham City. And that is wrong and bad. And he's not good at that.
Well, all right. So, I think it's an alternate future, but Batwoman. Um, the first run of that isn't that where Bruce Wayne has disappeared, and they don't know where he's at, and that's how she becomes Batwoman or whatever to take over to fill his
In the
void.
WB series, definitely.
Well, I think it was in the comics too, in the very first volume of it.
I think, yeah, I think he died and went through time and became the Batman through generations, and including a cave Batman, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So yes, I thought that was, and so now, granted, Batwoman is not the one to be taken over as leader of the
Well,
Bat Society,
No.
but
Um,
Nightwing is. Nightwing and Oracle, they should be the one to work together, and they should lead the Batman Society. And Bruce Wayne should be gone. Go go with Catwoman and go do stuff. Get
Is
your own.
Dick Grayson leaving Bloodhaven or Bloodhaven to move back to Gotham?
It's funny you should say that Bloodhaven because I was reading in somewhere where they said that you've been pronouncing Bloodhaven wrong all this time.
It's Blue Haven.
Yes, because there's a two
The
dots
two.
over the U or something like that.
Okay.
Uh, so, yeah, Bloodhaven was just somewhere for Nightwing to go, so he wouldn't be in Gotham City because Gotham City is so run so well and so tightly by Batman, and so he had to get his own city just so he can be out from under him. Yeah, send Batman to Bloodhaven, and then leave Gotham City because between Nightwing and Oracle, they are inspiring, right? They are not broken that way. I mean, every bat person is broken. I mean, you can't be a bat person unless you're broken. But no one is broken as bad as Bruce Wayne. And
We're seeing in the video game Arkham Knights. That's that story.
yeah,
Yeah.
just keep Batman out of there. And granted, the other bat-ish, bat-like characters would have to step up, but so let them step up. You know what I mean? And there's others. Those are just the four you know about. When you got Nightwing, Red Hood, whatever. There's like other Robins, right? There's
Right.
other, you know what I'm saying? There's other bad girls. There's a Bluebird or something. There's all these other kind of different characters that are under the bat. There's Azrael. We can bring in the Outsiders. We can bring in Black Lightning and all
Well, I
these other
mean,
people.
if it wasn't a fucked up city, like what would Batman have to do? He wouldn't have anything to do, you know.
Ah, now we're talking. And then he funds all these other failing Batman across the world. That's a whole other conversation. But yes, he would have something to do. What he should do is take the Outsiders, his homemade team, and go fight larger, insidious organizations like Cobra. Cobra. He should go fight them, right? He should go fight those things where there's thousands of people like Hydra. Go fight them, right? And leave the city to people who actually love the city and love humans.
Yeah.
So I think, and I think your point is, what else would he do? Is the problem. This is why I stopped reading Batman books because where does where does the needle ever get moved forward? The only way the needle gets moved over in Batman books is we get a new Robin, a new sidekick, or somebody that might be interesting. Like we got with the Signal now, we got all these other characters. You know what I mean? The Daylight, the Signal is the Daylight Batman. All these other, and these are interesting things, but Batman is not interesting anymore. What is
So
new?
that poses the question from a writer's standpoint. Is he just too good at his job? Is he too entertaining at fighting in Gotham to where the writers want to perpetually keep him in Gotham because it's a good story? He's the world's greatest detective.
Is
No,
that what they did to Spider-Man and they erased his marriage for that very reason?
yeah, I think what it comes down to is the soap opera syndrome. Comics are perpetually in the same state as soap operas, right? You have these characters that you follow for 50 years or whatever, and it's all the same stuff. It's just recombinations of the same types of stories.
Yeah.
But
Um,
but some characters move forward, like Wally West, who started as Kid Flash, became the Flash, and became and still now the fastest Flash there ever was. Right, even faster than Barry Allen, to his own admission. Right, there was a growth, and that's why I like the Flash. Is that there's some growth and there's some generational part to it. Right, but Batman is the same Batman he was. Go
What
ahead.
growth could you have given to Batman? I mean, he's the quintessential fighter, quintessential thinker. So they made him a god, and that wasn't long. Like he didn't last long there. So if he's at the top peak of everything, where else can you go?
Who's going after Hydra and whatever the DC version? Who's going after those people? Whose job is
The
it to
Court of
do that?
Owls.
Yeah, whose job is it to get? But they're Gotham's light, so that makes sense to that extent. But I'm talking national or international, James Bond type stuff.
They had Dick Grayson do it for a while, the
Yeah.
spy stuff.
yeah.
So I think that you need Batman should go after villains that, for example, the stuff that Batman does in Gotham City, Nightwing can do it, or some other Bat light.
So
You don't need
shadow
Batman for that.
organizations.
Yeah, but then so Batman should only be working on that. He shouldn't be patrolling the night looking for screams in the darkness, right? Or oh, here I swing it in, right? Or I
Well,
have the Batmobile listen for all screams, and the screams that sound like actual whatever. I send a flying bat drone, and then I show up.
I think that speaks to why they keep revisiting, year one, year two, early Batman stuff. They keep going back to that because that's when he was still figuring out and still fighting that straight level crime stuff.
So why is he still doing it?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could take the character the James Bond route, or it would be. I would love to see like a Batman Beyond movie, right? Because it would be interesting to see Bruce Wayne in the as the old man who is the thinker and not the doer. So I don't know. I mean,
Or just give him other people to fight. Suicide Squad handles people all over the world. The Batman Squad could do that too.
yeah,
Batman should. Why doesn't Batman make a better Suicide Squad?
an organization.
Yes. Why doesn't Batman do that? If anyone can do it, shouldn't Batman be able to do that? Wouldn't you read that? Yes, you
Yeah,
would. But no, you just need to keep punching Joker thugs in the face. That's Batman. And Gotham is not better for it. Gotham is always the worse for it. My opinion, just kick Batman out, block him out of the city so he can't come in, and just let the other baby bats grow up and handle it. And they'll do better because they, unlike the dark bat, they don't live on fear.
right.
The other baby bats, they don't strike fear into the criminals that are a superstitious and cowardly lot. They don't. They use something different. And granted, there's some fear because no one wants to get their spleen busted, but they don't have. You know, Batman is using fear, and that's not working. But that's my 2 cents. So if you agree, then we need to start something that says get Batman out of Gotham. And in the DC Comics upcoming thing called Future State, they did that.
Okay.
They actually got, and if you're reading Batman, which I refuse to read, so I read about from people that read it. There's a new like we're tired of these vigilantes. Let's just get the vigilantes out of Gotham. Are they making things better or not? And I say no. Just have cops shoot the Joker. Cops usually be like, you're just death by suicide by cop. If you just leave it to the cops, Joker would be dead and Batman wouldn't have to be guilty. But Batman would put his cape up. No, you must
Right.
not kill him. He must live to kill again so I can fight him and there can be another episode or whatever.
Right. Right.
If the cops go after the Joker, they just kill him. Right?
It'd be
Joker, Penguin, Riddler, I would be more fearful of that because any cop, especially the nowadays, the questionability of cops would consider themselves a hero for taking down the Joker permanently.
Has there been any book that's dealt with who owns and runs Arkham Asylum?
Uh, I don't know if anything's definitive. I know that what is the doctor with the beard and the bald head and the glasses?
I know. I want to say
He's in the video games too. Yeah, Hugo Strange. Hugo
Hugo
Strange has
Strange.
often been the guy trying to rehabilitate.
Well,
Uh,
he may have been the face, but like, who's the money behind Arkham? Because I think that would be an interesting story to tell.
that's just state money, man.
Isn't it
Government money.
Waller?
Who?
I thought it was
I
Amanda
don't.
Waller.
No, I don't think
Government
it's
funded.
privately funded like that. I just think they may have some funding from outside because they keep some of the big criminals. But I think that's just state money.
That
That's
would
who owns the sane asylums in our universe. That's state money.
no, not necessarily.
I mean, I'm not saying they can't be funded by other funding, but because that's craziness is a regulated thing, right? You got to have regulation.
Right. That would
So
be the story that I would write.
yeah, but who's our point of view? Who do we care about?
Well, it would still be a Batman book, but it would be Batman discovering that there's a cycle that's perpetuated by
him.
he realizes that he's
Well,
part.
he already knows that everybody he's ever fought is going to get out again, right? Is there no one, no matter how many murders they
You
do,
you say that
Batman ever fought that
you say
has
that
not
he
escaped?
you say that he knows, but has he ever had the realization of?
Oh, now you're going to make Batman stupid? Is that what you're saying? He can't analyze. This is the guy that I remember a comic book where he says, I drove into this parking lot and I memorized all the license plates. So when I came out, one was gone. I knew that was the one I was looking for.
So maybe somebody has to come in and fight Batman as the villain who's perpetuating this cycle of chaos.
I say it needs to be someone that goes after him as perpetuating the cycle of chaos.
That's what I'm saying.
And he's
So
in the way.
Batman is the villain because he is
Yes.
perpetuating.
Batman
Yes.
is the villain. Yes.
I like that.
That could work.
Batman is the villain. But in the end, nothing new happens. Right? What's new in the end? And another, like remember when Spider-Man became rich like Tony Stark? Right?
Yeah.
And they had Parker Tech and Parker phones and everything else. But in the end, you knew where it was going, right?
Yeah.
Broke Peter Parker trying to find a roommate. You knew no matter what happened that we were going to go back to that, right? Because they won't get off of broke Peter Parker. That's why Miles Morales is more interesting. I don't know how broke Peter Parker keeps selling stuff. He's still fighting to this day people who he made mistakes with in his past. He's still like right now. He's fighting, I think, Norman
Osborn,
Osborn's
right?
son. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just never ending guilt. Is he like Catholic and Jewish all rolled into one? Where's all this guilt coming from?
Uh,
That was probably inappropriate. I apologize to anyone who's either of those things. But still, it's it's I love new stories. This is why I like and bring new things here
yeah.
that are not that are not that don't heal and don't grow. Like Nightwing grew, right? Even when he was Robin, he's not the same person he is when he was Robin. Nightwing is not that same guy, right? Even when he's Robin, he had his own little issues, and then he actually got over his issues with Batman, right? Remember how he was hating Batman, Batman this, whatever. I had to leave, get my own. Now he can be like, he just come in and joke to Batman like it ain't nothing. Like he was saying, the problem, and he'll be like, when he got shot recently, he got shot in the head, uh, and he got shot in the head when he was on a rooftop with Batman and Commissioner Gordon, and he was like, the problem with the Condiment King is, right? He's just a joke, and then poof, he got killed. But only Nightwing could do that because Nightwing is adjusted,
Yeah.
right? He grew. A lot of the teenage heroes that became Titans became something, right? Superman, you know what they end up doing with all these characters? They just have another crisis and rewrite them a different way. That's what they do, right?
Yeah.
Now, Marvel doesn't have as many crises. How many is? So you still get the same, you know what I mean? Marvel needs another crisis to make Peter Parker interesting again. We've done it with Thor. We've moved Thor forward, right? Whether or not I like it,
Right.
Thor's not that same Thor. Because he was the same Thor, you wouldn't be reading this,
Yeah.
right? Different power level, different responsibilities. We killed Odin or moved Odin off the throne, right? That's huge, right? We've seen, and if you're looking in the comics, we've seen his child and his granddaughters and things like that, right? So we moved Thor forward. I like that. Daredevil, we didn't move forward. Daredevil's in jail right now. Right after that book you talk about,
Yeah.
he surrendered and he's in jail with his mask on because they let him keep his mask on in jail. I'm thinking, how do you not drop the soap when you got the mask on all the time? Whatever.
He can hear.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he's blind anyway, so.
Yeah. So I like when you move a character forward. Batman never moves forward. This is a problem, and this is a problem for Gotham City. So
Yeah.
Batman needs to be out.
I like a Gotham without Batman because you have Nightwing as the quintessential Batman, but then you also have Jason Todd as the one who's not afraid to kill. Like Joker act up, Joker get dead.
Mhm.
Like it's that simple.
And I like that Oracle could lead the other. And in fact, if you're reading her comics, Orphan and Homegirl, who's a spoiler, are now both Batgirls.
Okay.
And they call the original Batgirl, even though she's Oracle, back being Oracle again, they still call her Batgirl Prime, which I just think is great, right? Uh, so all of those characters are great, inspired by Batman or inspired by someone who worked or against Batman. All those characters are interesting, aren't they? Right? You got the Signal. All the Robins are interesting in their own way, right? Batman, what? Did he give you something new this week, this month, this year, this decade? No.
I don't.
Only that he finally came out and dating Catwoman. But we already did that on Earth 2, where they had a daughter named the Huntress, right?
Yeah.
Helena Wayne, 20 years ago on Earth 2, where it was the Daily Star, not the Daily Planet, and that future, and Power Girl, not Supergirl. In that universe, Batman quit. Robin became a grown Robin, but still with the same color scheme. That's another problem. Uh, um, Batman married Catwoman. They had a daughter who grew up and became a hero called Huntress. She was the first hero Huntress. Those things are great, but they don't exist in, the Super Seven, I call them
I
in
think
DC.
I think the only Batman book that I've bought this year was the Dark Multiverse Asriel book, um, which was interesting, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm just saying that I think the hype over there are more Batman books than there are any other books in DC Comics, right?
Yeah,
And they'll publish them bi-weekly if they need to or whatever.
yeah.
And they're not delivering on new, fresh, interesting stories. It's just the same old thing. If somebody gets a new run on Batman, they're going to find a way to bring the Joker in, right? And the Riddler, right? They're just going to find a way. And then maybe the Penguin, or at least in the background, they're going to fight those characters, right? Everybody gets a new run. It's time to rehash. Okay, here's my character list, and Batman's got quite a few. And you start pulling them out. Calendar Man, Cat Man. We just said the C's, right? And then you work all the way down to the others. I really am disappointed with, and I really don't. I'm really not a fan of whoever the guy is writing them now. I don't like his storytelling style, and that's another conversation. Then again, now more people than ever, Joker knows who Batman is. Bane knows who Batman is. What the heck are we doing here?
Hasn't Joker always known? He just didn't find it funny to
Oh, and here's
release
the
that
real
information.
question: Batman knows who the Joker is. His real name.
Well, that's interesting, right? That's
Yeah, that's something forward.
Did you read the Three Jokers?
no. Like I said, the only Batman book I picked up was the Azrael Dark Multiverse one.
So the Three Jokers, which is not in continuity, but speaks to something that may be the case. And I
Okay.
won't spoil it because it's not the place to do so. But I invite you to read the Three Jokers. I think there are only 3 issues.
I
The
think we
story was
did.
finished.
We did do the
Mm,
one of the issues on here.
we did.
So, but all right, gentlemen. To wrap things up this week, I think it was a pretty solid week of books.
Yep.
Um,
I think so.
How'd you guys like my Rod Sterling impersonation for the intros?
It's a bit long, but good voiceovers.
yeah,
All right.
that works
All
for me.
right. Cool.
All right, until next week, you can watch us live on twitch.tv/Corner Comics. You can find the show notes for all of our episodes on cornercomics.net. That will include covers of the issues that we talked about, any links to free copies of any issues that we've talked about, as well as links to any news articles that we've referenced. Um, you can listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever you find your pods. You can catch them there. Just search Corner Comics. You can find me on Twitter at Berkoff, Berkough. I used to tweet out the covers of the issues before we talked about them so that people had an opportunity, but there was no real engagement when I did that. So if you are interested, you do want to know what the issues are ahead of time, please let me know. Hit me up on Twitter, and I'll start doing that again. Even if there's just one or two people out there that are curious and want to read along with the Corner Comics Reading Club. Am I forgetting anything else?
Email?
Email. You can send us an email at cornercomicsofficial@gmail.com. If you want to engage that way. We're on YouTube, BitChute. Yeah, find us on the web and leave a comment. I'm sure that I will find that comment, and if I don't respond, leave another comment, and I'm sure I'll respond to that one. So, and on that note, gentlemen, any final thoughts? Do we have any renewed X-Men fans in the house today?
I mean, I am. I'm an X-Men fan ish.
Fanish, I like it. To
Are you
go
a Teen
along-
Titans fan?
I am. I like Teen Titans.
I think I'm gonna really dig into the classic, or at least that Marv Wolfman, George Perez run for sure.
Yes.
So on that note, we're out.
Later days.
Let's see. Do you know Poison Ivy can secretions?
You're always getting in those final words at the tail end.